Roch, Steve Pearce today missing a 5th consecutive game. Now, how do we look at this? Is this still precaution mode, or is there mild concern about Steve going forward as we look forward to the playoffs next week?
It's definitely precaution mode. He was scheduled to take a full round of batting practice today, which would have had to been indoors because they didn't hit out in the field today. Full round of BP, assuming that right wrist is okay. He will be in the lineup tomorrow for the 6-hour rain delay that we're anticipating here in Derek Jeter's final home game. 100% chance of rain, so we'll enjoy that one. But Steve will definitely be back in the lineup. They can stop that revolving door at first base and get him some at-bats. They're just being extra careful with him because he was on the DL twice last year with a tendonitis in the left wrist, and the right wrist also bothered him last year. This year, of course, it's the right wrist. Yeah, the cortisone injection. Usually they go 2 to 3 days where you're shut down to let it work. They actually are going 5 days with him, again, to be extra careful. Plus, you know Steve as well as I do. He likes to take a lot of extra swings, which just aggravate the condition. That's what makes him the professional hitter, but it's also what makes him at risk to this type of an injury. So they wanted to shut him down completely, make sure it's okay, because they can't afford to have any more regulars out of the lineup. So look for Steve Pearce tomorrow to be playing first base for the Orioles.
All right, now 5 games remain in the regular season, including today, and Buck has to do that act of balancing rest versus work for the relievers especially. Who's going to start on Sunday? That hasn't been set. And how will that affect the pitchers after Chris Tillman when the playoffs begin next Thursday?
Buck's still being really secretive with us, which is so aggravating, but I understand. He doesn't know who the opponent's going to be in the playoffs, so of course he's still looking at matchups. But he said he's leaning toward Ubaldo Jimenez getting another start on Sunday in the last regular season game in Toronto. Ubaldo's made 2 starts since he came back to the rotation. Each time 5 innings, has gotten a win. Buck's happy to let him kind of finish strong here, thinks he really needs that. So he's leaning toward that, but it'd still be a bullpen game. I mean, whoever starts, and it probably will be Jimenez, it could be an inning or 2, and that's it. And then Buck wants to get his relievers all work, so he doesn't want them sitting too long before game 1 on Thursday. So we know that much, and we know Chris Tillman's game 1, but that is all we know as far as the playoffs go. 4-man rotation. It would be shocking if it's not Wei-Yin Chen in game 2. It's absolutely got to be. My understanding, at least early on, was the plan was Gonzalez in game 3 and Bud Norris in game 4. But again, Buck's like, we still don't know the opponent. They're looking at matchups team-wise, hitter-wise, ballpark-wise. There's a lot of still in play here, but it looks like those would be the 4 at least, but we're still waiting to find out. Good news for the Orioles, though, for the Blue Jays. Marcus Stroman is not listed among the starters for that series. Of course, he's the kid who threw the fastball behind Caleb Joseph's head. It's Hutchinson, it's Dickey, it's Happ for that series. No Marcus Stroman, so that's probably good for the Orioles because you can't really trust that kid.
All right, now the playoff roster is far from set, and with all due respects to Abbott and Costello, because I know who plays first base, I'm going to ask you, when the division series begins next Thursday, who's on third for the Orioles?
That is a really good question. Buck is still taking extra long looks now at Paredes and at Kelly Johnson. He said he's got to determine his roster. So, he's had Johnson playing first base or second base these last 2 games. So maybe he's leaning in that direction with Ryan Flaherty at third, or it could flip-flop him. But again, it so much depends on who the opponent is, who the game 1 starter is, game 2, whatever. We still don't know for that division series. But he's definitely taking a look at all those guys. I thought it was somewhat interesting today. The Buck said he's leaning toward going with an 11-man pitching staff, which would give him room for an extra position player. Now, without Chris Davis, I already thought they had room for Johnson and Paredes and Flaherty, but right now this could also mean room for an extra outfielder, and that's really what I'm intrigued by. Is it David Lowe or is it Quentin Berry? Lowe would seem the obvious choice because he's been with the team since day 1. He's hitting over 300 quietly in the second half. However, Berry, as you know, 30 for 30 in stolen base attempts in his major league career, including 5 for 5 in the postseason. That is a weapon to have. He's got that playoff experience. You could have that luxury with the extra position player of somebody who's primarily a pinch runner for you, also a plus defender. So I really think that's where the decision could come down to, Lowe or Berry for that last spot.
All right, Rocco, enjoy the game and enjoy your evening in New York City, and make sure Eddie in the yard picks up the tab.
Absolutely. It'd be a first.
Okay.